everybody, welcome back to the Essential Guide to Digital Jewelry Design. I'm Eva and hope you all had a good New Year celebrations, and let's all wish that this year will be a much more peaceful one. Having said that, today I'm going to take you through a small tutorial on how to make a diamond pendant with a simple 6-prong setting and just a pretty simple classic design, and I hope you will be able to follow and that you'll enjoy the tutorial and leave your comments. We'd appreciate that. So let's get started. I'm going to use Grasshopper Gold. It's my preferred go-to for jewelry design when I need stones and settings. Easy to download of food for Rhino, and do donate on Patreon. It's still in development, but with every development I've noticed it's getting stronger and stronger. So I am going to take a round stone, and the size is going to be make it 2. Actually no, we need it to be quite a bit bigger, so let's maybe go with 5. That's good. Okay, and we're just going to create, and I can close the window, and let's just change our viewport settings to shaded. Okay, so that's a 5mm stone, and it's created a gems layer for me automatically. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a seat for the stone. Now, using Grasshopper Gold, I could actually use this all the tools and settings that he has in his interface, but I'd like to show you how to do it manually. So I like angular pieces and not necessarily round, because what you could do ultimately is just use a torus to create the seat for your stone. But let's rather go with something more custom, and we'll start by making a circle around the stone. So create 0 as the center of our circle, and we are going to press Shift on our keyboard and make this circle the size of our stone. You'll see here I'm working in a curves layer to create all my curves. I like to keep all my curves in one layer usually. I'm going to bring that curve down, and I'm going to press Alt, and I'm going to bring another curve further down than that one. So this one I brought it down a bit too much. I'm going to bring it up again just a tad, and the one underneath I can make it a bit smaller. Okay, and now let's create our profile curves. So I'm going to use a rectangle. I'm going to go in my side view, the right view. I'm going to start my quad from start my rectangle from the quad of my circle. So you can see over here, and we're going to make this, because we have 5mm stone, I'd say let's start with 1 by 1mm square. Okay, bring that down and bring that in. Actually it works quite nicely with our grid. Put that right into that square. And what we can do here is, if I look at this in a ghosted viewport mode, we can chamfer this seat curve with the chamfer setting in our Boolean tools. So chamfer. Excuse me, I'm thinking solids. We need to do the chamfering up in our curves editing. So we got chamfer curves, and the distance is too high. We're going to make that distance about 3.5, and we're going to draw a line here onto our, let's switch that gem off for a moment. There we go. Okay, and you can do the same for the bottom right edge curve. That's just so that it creates something that is more homogeneous with the shape of the stone. So we're going to go ahead and join these curves. Make one. Okay. Let's bring that one down a bit. And we're going to make another rectangle. This time we're going to make it a bit smaller. We're going to make it 0.75 or 0.75. And bring that in as well. It's maybe just a tad too small. Let's just scale it up using our gumball and our shift key just a bit like that. And just switch off our gem, and we're going to do the same chamfer. And this time we actually need to change our chamfering distance. I'm going to change the chamfer distance to 0.25. 0.25. No, that's because our one chamfer distance is, there we go, and the same on the other side. There we go, perfect. And put the gem back on, and we're going to move this up just a little bit over the stone edge. Join those curves and move that out a bit. And why I'm going to do this is so that I leave a little bit of meat inside the seat, although it's not necessary. You could just do that, leave it at that. But sometimes it's nice for the goldsmith to work out a little bit of the metal so that it really sits nicely inside the seat. So the curve here is going to be our rail curve. You could do this two ways. You could either do a sweep curve, a sweep one rail, or you could do this with the lathe rotate, the rail revolve, which is a right click. In fact, in this case, because our stone is round, we just need the revolve, which is quite simple. But let's say you wanted to make this stone a shape emerald cut or trillion or Mickey or heart, then your best bet would be to use the either the rail revolve or the sweep. So for this, I'm just going to use the revolve, press 0 for my start axis, and up in my Z, enter, that's my first seat, and we're going to do the same for the second. A Z axis is our axis, and yeah, that's quite a chunky looking seat that we've got, but this is quite a large stone. It's about 5 millimeters. You don't want that to fall out too easily. What you could eventually do is maybe make this a bit smaller, so we can take the curve, and if you had your record history on, you could scale it down now a touch by just hitting the and can do the same with the bottom seat. And bring it in a bit. There we go. What a lot of people like to do is they like to put the seat underneath the stone, so you don't see anything of the seat from the top like this. But quite honestly, I like a bit of a frame around the stone for this, because it's a large stone, and you could make it something that's a bit more delicate. But that's up to you, purely a design choice. Okay, we're going to bring that other seat down a little bit more so that it's hiding the point of the back of the stone. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to take these two profiles and we're going to put them into our seat layer. And now we're going to start working on our prongs. So for the prongs, I have two things. I have an arch. With my arch in the side view, I'm just going to create a slight arch like that. Okay, I can move it down a touch. And what I want to do is I want to do a prong that is somewhat slightly different, not the usual round cylinder shape or piped shape. I want something that is going to look a bit Victorian and old-fashioned. So the idea here is to take a circle from the top view, and we're going to make that circle a diameter of about 1. And I'm going to take the top and the bottom points of the circle and I'm going to bring them in like that. The old points out, and I'm going to add another little circle to create what would look a bit like a clover shape, and we can use our trim tool. Use our trim tool to cut that. So let's join those up. There we go. And this is a bit too arched. Maybe straighten it out a bit. And we're going to bring this in and line that point on that curve up with the quadrant of our profile. We could even make this curve a little bit bigger and maybe a little bit narrower. There we go. And now we do a sweep. So let's see how this looks. We've already selected our rail curve. Now we want our sweep shape profile. I'm going to put my seam on the top point, and yeah, looks good. So this is where we can start moving the curve back a bit. And maybe even bring it. No, excuse me. Actually, there's two things we've forgotten. So let's delete that. Let's bring that back a bit. Do that. We are going to place this curve here, and I'm going to change the gumball center origin to that point, and I'm just going to make this profile curve perpendicular to the rail curve, and we are going to do the same at the bottom. We are going to copy, alt copy, alt, there we go, right key. So we've still got the original one up here, and take this one over here, and we are going to place it on the curve, and we're going to do the same thing, relocate the gumball to that point where it meets the rail curve, and now we're just going to rotate it up, but just a tad, so that it's just below the seat. And now we're going to, I think I'm going to raise this a touch, and now we're going to do another sweep rail. So rail curve, profile curves, change our seams to be on the point, the intersection of the rail curve and the profile curve, and that's great. Exactly how we want it to look. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this over to our prongs layer, and we are going to, again, make sure your record history is always on. We're going to do a polar array of this prong, and a polar array you will find under your move transform tools, under your array. Here you go, polar array, and 0 will be our center, and I want 6 items. Always count the original item with the amount of items you want, and we want it to be a 360 fill. There we go. And this is looking rather sweet. Okay, so what's important though is that we should probably move, and you'll see I'm moving the curves and not the object. Should probably move this back a bit. There we go, because the setter himself will then, what we were looking for here is we want the setter to ultimately polish these points into 2 claws on either side, so you have a two claw on each prong finish. Yeah, you'll see that in the render. What we could also do is we could make the bottom here just a tad smaller. So let's just make that smaller, and they don't intersect each other at the bottom. That also looks a little bit prettier. And now we need to close it up on top. So I want to close it up slightly roundish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off my curves for the moment. I'm going to open up my perspective window large, and in my analyze edge tools I want to actually, maybe what we'll do is we'll do it first with the duplicate edge. I can see exactly where my edges are along the top, and here I can see that I have an edge here, so each arch has 2 edges. That's perfect. So what we can do is we can go to blend, which is under surface tools, surface transform tools, and we are going to choose blend surface, and I'm going to start at the bottom here on the one side of our clover. Start there. What we have to do first is take our chain edges off. So we turn off our chain edges. So start again. And I'm going to select those 3 edges on that side. I'm going to press enter for my second edge. And I'm going to again choose the bottom edge so it correlates, so that they correlate exactly with one another. And press enter. And here you see you have this wonderful little blend happening here. And tangency, you can bring it down a notch like that. Okay. And just press OK. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to do another polar array. So I'm just going to select our surface, right click in the command line and choose polar array. Use 0 from the top viewport and enter, and everything is set. So now what you can do, and I'm just going to lock the gem, you can go and join your surface. You can either choose to finish the bottom off like I did the top, or what I would prefer in this case is to just cap it. So I'm just going to cap the bottom like that. Okay, so let's join all of these, or fast forward through that. So all of them are capped, and I also did move the stone a bit higher up. I moved the stone up to where the top of the claws are, the top of the prongs, and I brought the bottom seat, the top seat in a bit. So yes, it's a little bit smaller. You don't see that much of it anymore. And at the bottom you'll see that the prongs just touch the edge, and that's perfect for a bullion, so that will print quite nice. If you're in doubt, you could always move it up a bit and make it a bit bigger. Okay, so yeah, that's looking kind of cute. So next thing is to make the bail. So the bail is going to come out of the top prong, and this is pretty much going to be quite a simple bail. What I would like to do is I like to follow the theme of the prongs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy with Alt Shift that curve and relocate the gumball in the middle, and I'm going to rotate this curve there we go, 90 degrees, so it's straight again. And this time I'm going to make it bigger, bring these points in, down, make this top half a bit bigger, and I'm going to just bring that down to around about here, and we could get quite big here. I think we're going to have to make this quite a bit bigger, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe this, and the pipe radius should be at least 0.35, so you have a pipe diameter of about 0.7 millimeters, and as you can see that's quite thick, so we have to make this bigger. Okay, let's pipe that again. Okay, yeah, not convinced. Delete that. What we can do here is bring these 2 points out and maybe use our curve editing tools to fillet this and this. Yeah, but not that strong, so we're going to change the radius of the fillet to 0.4, and that's better. Join the curves. Okay, and let's repipe that. Okay, if you have problems like that, it's because there's something not good on the corners here. So what we can do is we can rebuild that curve, and we're going to rebuild it with 16 points like the original. Delete the input. Let's go a bit higher. Make it 28 points. Okay, that one's looking a little bit more like the original. Now this should pipe without any problems. There we go. And I'm going to put that in just below the seat over here. Or you could, if you wanted to, align it with the seat, as you wish. It might feel like it's a bit of a big bail, a big O-ring. You might not like that. You might want to go with something a bit smaller and more petite. I'd like to make it part of the design, but play with it and see what you prefer. So the bail itself will just be an ellipse. So I'm going to go out either side. I'm going to make it about 3 millimeters in height and about 2 millimeters in width. And for this, we're also just going to use a pipe. And we can do a variable radius on the pipe here. Although, so there's two ways of approaching this, because what I want to do is I want to make a bail that would be a bit broader on the top end. It could also have a slightly different shape, like our prongs, right? So let's delete that. And let's explore this shape again. We can take it from that curve. Actually, let's take the original curve and make a duplicate of that. And let's rotate this. And use the revolve tool again to make it 90 degrees. And I'm going to use a combination of cage tool and rail revolve. So we're going to choose our rail revolve here. One rail, sweep one rail, sweep shape, our seam on the top edge. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take the cage edit, create a bounding box with four points along each of our axes, and I'm just going to expand the one side and contract the other. And there we have quite a nice little bail. Very, very simple. So you can move it up. Possibly make it just a tad smaller. Make sure that it fits in snug inside there. Once it's been worked off by a goldsmith, it should be just fine. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make a little chain. This is just for rendering purposes. And how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to give it the impression that it's kind of lying flat on the surface or hanging. So let's go back to our curves. Let's build that kind of feeling of a chain. Okay, it's running through here, and I have to bring that chain down to the middle, and we're going to have a little links. I'm just going to create those on the side here and make them about 1 millimeter with a diameter of about 0.5 millimeters. That might even be too much, so it might even be too big. We might have to go a bit smaller. So we'll rotate that second link. Bring it in nice and tight. Okay, we're going to keep that. We're going to group it, and we are, yeah, they're looking a bit too big. Let's go back. That was too big. I'm going to redo this torus. So we want that torus to be one. We want that link to be no larger than 1 millimeter. So this is going to be a very thin little wire. It's going to fit 2 links inside there. You can maybe even rotate that slightly off and join. And what we're going to do now is we're going to transform orient on a curve. Actually better array along a curve. So we're going to array along a curve. We will choose the base point on our object being the center of our object. We'll select the path curve, and now we're going to array, also orient road-like. We'll give this a try, see if it distance 1. So make that distance 2. And sorry, not stair like. No rotation. We need at least a road-like orientation. Well, that would mean so no, let's try the orient. Okay, orient on a curve, base point, the base point of our object in the middle, select the orientation curve, and copy yes. No, so not what we want. So we're going to have to try this with the array. So we discovered that due to the unusual orientation of this curve, what we're actually going to have to do is a flow along curve. So first we're going to analyze the curve length, and it's 101.091 millimeters. So we're going to make a curve of 101.091 millimeters in length, and we are going to put our chain link on that. And what we're going to do is we are going to array our chain link along this curve, and this is just going to be a simple linear array, or in fact just a long curve array. So select the path curve, and we are going to make it a distance of 1.8. We'll work on that until it's down to a distance that works well. Let's say it needs a little bit more than that. So distance 1.3. A little bit more than that, 1.4. 1.42. 1.45. 1.38. Actually, that's better. Okay, there we go, and we have a little chain what you can do for a bit of maximum effect if you're planning on rendering this. Delete that last link. You can select all of this and use your transform cage edits tool to rotate your chain. That will take a little moment. And now you can select your chain, group it, makes it easier to use, to handle, and go to your transform flow along curve. Should be down here, flow along curve. If you don't find it there, you go to transform flow along curve, and we select our object, and then we select our curve, which is in there. It already has the links selected, so it knows that you want to select the curve. And just going to click on the end of the curve, and we're going to wait a while. Should take a few seconds. And there you go. That's done. You might have to move that chain down a bit so it's not intersecting the bail. So let's put our curves layer off and put that bail into its own layer. And let's see if we can render this in Rhino Ray Trace. Of course, you can make the chain a little bit finer if you prefer. Everything is possible. Perhaps do your measurements. I know the chains come in much finer varieties than the one that I chose to make here. So let's have a look quickly. We're just going to switch on our ground plane. And show our ground plane. We will use a material for the ground plane. I will choose a paint. We'll make it white, and we will make it slightly matte. And let's go into our materials. We're going to create basic metal. We'll make it a white metal, slightly rough. I can change that color to something just slightly off of. And gem, we go with diamond, and yeah, that should do. And we're just going to select everything that would be metal here. And assign. Yes, we do. Let's change our lighting here. We'll put sun on. I like to use the sun, but I like to use the sun in manual control and just bring the zenith down, so it's kind of like a yellowish light. So let's change to ray trace viewport mode. It might be just a tad bit too bright. So let's bring the light down a bit. 0.7. And under our render environment, we are going to make that black. Bring a bit of contrast in, a gradient. We will use a custom environment for reflections, but we will change that custom environment. The skylight we're going to bring down, however, to something a bit. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and we'll be back with with some new ones this coming year. And don't forget to let us know what you'd like to see and what you'd be interested to work on. And wishing you a very good start to the new year, and hope to see you again soon. Cheers.